Hello everyone, I am Laethas and welcome back again for another video. Today I have my manga haul for the month of August 2018 coming in a little bit late, but I wanted to get this video out there nonetheless. And to start this haul off, I have Volume 9 of The Ancient Magus Bride. Now, I have read a good majority of this series, however, I have stopped to sort of build up a backlog. I've currently read up through Volume 7, but of what I've read, I have really enjoyed this series. Didn't really enjoy the first volume a whole lot, but come the second volume, I was very much intrigued and wanted to see where this series goes, and in my opinion, it has gotten better with each successive volume. So, Volume 9 of The Ancient Magus Bride, I'm happy to have picked up. Next, I have Volume 7 of Murcielago, and this is a series, as you can see, it is still in its plastic wrap. I have not read this volume yet. I read Volumes 1 through 5. This is a really high-action, high-octane, lots of energy, sort of crazy series that is just really fun. If I had to describe it as anything, it is just a fun series. The rule of cool is definitely at play in this series. So I'm really excited to see where it goes, and if you want a high-octane, high-action series, Murcielago is definitely a series I would recommend going for. Though I will have to say there is a lot of sexual content, well, not in the sense that characters are having sex, but there is lots of fan service, shall I say, and gore. So those elements are at play in this series, but it is still a lot of fun in my opinion, and if you're looking for something high-action, definitely try it out. And next up, I have Volume 4 of The Case Study of Vanitas, or Vanitas. Don't know exactly how it is pronounced, but this is a series involving vampires, which is a very intriguing type of supernatural being, in my opinion. I always like seeing what different creators do with sort of the vampire archetypes that already exist and putting their own sort of unique spins on them. I've read Volumes 1 through 3. This volume has not been read yet, but it is by the same mangaka that wrote Pandora Heart, so if you really enjoyed that series, this might be one for you to check out, and it is a series I am definitely enjoying. And next up, I have Volume 4 of How to Build a Dungeon Book of the Demon King, the incredibly fan service heavy series, though this volume decided to take a little bit of a step away from the fan service. While it is still absolutely definitely present in the series, it is much toned down from a lot of the other books in the series, so that was a little bit of an interesting find for me. Would I recommend to you this series? And that answer would be, if you already know you want to pick up this series, then I would pick it up. If you know you don't want to pick up this series, then I would say you're correct in your judgments. You probably know your tastes well enough to decide on this series for yourself, but I have been enjoying this series. Next up, I have a new series, Volume 1 of Tomo-chan is a Girl, and this is a book that I have not read yet. I got it very recently, though I do know it is a 4-koma, and I'm trying to get more into 4-koma series. I have not historically been a fan, but I picked up Miss Beelzebub, or As Miss Beelzebub Likes, and I did enjoy that, so I thought I might give this series a try. If I don't really like this first volume, I'll probably drop it, but I've heard a lot of great things about this series, so if I end up liking it, you'll definitely see it in the future. Next up, I have Volume 1 of The Bride and the Exorcist Knight, and this is a 4-volume long shoujo series about this girl who is sort of not really possessed, but cursed to where the Demon King, or the Lord of Demons, is set to marry her when she comes of age. And it's mostly just a shoujo-y, or a supernaturally shoujo romance type thing, though our main male character is quite young. I think he's 12 years old, so that's something that this series has going in. It has more of an age gap romance, which you sometimes see. I wasn't overly impressed with this first volume. The premise was intriguing to me, the sort of cursed princess-esque figure, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be picking up Volume 2 or continuing the series. Volume 2 comes out in November, so I have until then to decide, or really much later. I could decide later than that, but I'm not sure at this moment if I'm going to be continuing the series. Let me know what you guys think of this series if you have read it yourselves. Next up, I have a volume that I'm not sure if it was in the last haul or not. I'm hoping it wasn't, but if it was, oh well, you're seeing it again. But that is Volume 1 of The Voynich Hotel. This is a 3-volume series, sort of, I want to say, comedy. I haven't read this volume yet. Since it's only 3 volumes long, I really don't have much of a problem with blind buying this, though I have heard a lot of great things. And I've looked at the chapters, and they seem to be very short, so I'm imagining more sort of quick, more episodic, sort of just comedic episodes for just really fun series, and I've heard some very, very interesting things about this series, so I'm actually kind of excited to see where it goes. If you've read it, let me know what you thought of the series, but I will be reading this when the final volume comes out. That is only 3 volumes, so it shouldn't be too long. Next up, I have the 11th volume of Devil's Line, and I do believe the series has concluded in Japan at 13 volumes. If it has not concluded as of this very moment, it is concluding very soon, I am pretty sure. So, only 2 volumes... Whoa! Volume fell. Only 2 volumes away from the conclusion of this series. I really enjoyed this series. I've read up through Volume 7, decided that I wanted to build up a bit of a backlog, but if you're looking for an action romance, seinen-type series, again involving vampiric creatures, then this is definitely one I would recommend. I really enjoyed what I've read, and I want to see how it concludes, and I believe this is Ryo Hanada's first sort of big series, so after this concludes, if I really like it, I'm going to be very interested to see what her new series are, but I definitely recommend Devil's Line. Next up, I have Volume 1 of The Strange Creature at Kuro Yuri Apartments, and this is a 2-volume long series released by Yen Press. It's only 2 volumes long, so I am going to wait for Volume 2 to come out to just binge read it. I believe Volume 2 comes out in December, so it's going to be a little bit of time, but yeah, I was just kind of interested in the premise, and sort of supernatural beings are always of interest to me. So if you're looking for a short sort of supernatural being series, this might be one to check out. Again, I haven't read it yet, only 2 volumes long though, so I might have a review on this when I do eventually get to it, if you guys would like to see that. But The Strange Creature at Kuro Yuri Apartments, Volume 1 of 2. I'm interested to see what it does. Next up, I have Volume 2 of My Boy, and this is a series that I was very interested to see where it decided to go with sort of its plot lines and its characters, and I'm still unsure of the direction it wants to take, but I am definitely more interested in the series, and I do want to continue picking up volumes and continue reading the series. So, if you have been following this series like I have, the final destination of the series, as it will, is still up in the air, in my opinion. It hasn't hard-locked itself into one sort of path or sort of end goal, but, you know, the artist and the author is keeping things sort of open to where it could go in either direction. If you've read the series, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, if you're looking for a romance, this one's definitely more of an age gap romance, but more of a seinen-style romance, then this is a series that you might want to look into, though I would probably read about the series a little bit more before you get into it. It's definitely different than most of the romance series I've read, though not completely alien, but yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes, and that's mostly what this second volume has just sort of increased in me, I guess, or I'm more interested to see what it decides to do after reading Volume 2. Next up, I have the single-volume omnibus, Ibitsu, by Haruto Ryo. This is a 2-volume, or originally a 2-volume, as you can see, this is an omnibus, sort of horror series, and I'm not a very good person to ask about horror series advice, mostly just because I'm not a huge horror fan, though I do dabble in it every now and then, so I'm not sure how well this relates to other horror series, though I would imagine if you are into horror, that this will be one that you will enjoy. But do keep in mind, my ability to recommend horror series is very, very minimal, so I don't exactly know how, this would compare to stuff like Uzumaki or Gyo. But, I have read it. I did enjoy it. It wasn't my favorite series, but I definitely liked it more than I didn't like it, and it did keep me entertained. But yeah, the single volume omnibus for Ibitsu. Next up, I have volume 7 of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, and I almost have enough of a backlog on this series to where I feel comfortable reading more of it, but this is very fun series in my opinion, very different isekai, not completely different, it's an isekai series. There's stuff that you're always going to have in those, or that you're expecting there to be in them, but this one is different enough, and enough sort of representing niche appeal that I tend to like, to where I have enjoyed what I have read of the series, and I am expecting to enjoy more of it. But yeah, I don't think it'll blow your mind, but it's definitely fun, and I do enjoy That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. If you're looking for an isekai, this one is one I would recommend. Next up, I have volume 8 of Citrus, and this series has actually concluded in Japan at 10 volumes, so very close to completing this series. And if you like Yuri, you like girls' love, then this is a series that I would definitely recommend. However, if you do like Yuri, I imagine you've already read this series or already have it in your collection, just because it is kind of one of the more popular ones, or the more well-known Yuri series. But yeah, Citrus, it's more sort of lustful, more sort of physical in the romance department than some of its counterparts, though it is not the most physical that I have seen. But yeah, Citrus Volume 8, I've been enjoying Citrus, but I'm a Yuri fanboy, so that's kind of a no-brainer. If it has Yuri in it, the chances of me liking it are much higher. But yeah, Citrus Volume 8, we're almost done with the series, and I hope we get some more Yuri in the future, some longer series, and some more Milk Morinaga stuff. And I'm interested to see what Saburota decides to do, if they decide to make another Yuri or some other type of romance series. I will be interested to see what they do in the future. And next up, speaking of Yuri, I have volume 5 of Bloom Into You. This is more of a shoujo ai than a Yuri. This is more just girls' love. Not so physical, or at least of what I have read, because I have not read this volume yet. Things could go in that direction at some point, but if you're looking for more of a tamer Yuri, this is one I would recommend. And, of course, I, being the Yuri guy that I am, will continue to pick the series up, and will continue to enjoy my Yuri readings. But, yeah, besides it being a Yuri, it is actually a very interesting romance series. Just sort of on its own, if you take out the Yuri sort of fan-servicey aspects of the series, or the Yuri appeal aspects of the series. So if you are looking for a romance with sort of more of an aromantic or an asexual character, this might be one to look into, because that is definitely a dynamic that I have not seen very much of. But yeah, Volume 5 of Bloom Into You. Next up, I have a complete series, volumes 1 through 4 of The Prince in His Dark Days, and this series was not amazing, but the sort of niche appeal aspects of it, or sort of the different way it goes about its story, was enough to get me through the series, though I would say if you're not already interested in the premise, this one is just kind of okay, or more of just a standard shoujo series. But if you're wondering what sort of the strangeness that's going on in this series it is, there's a girl who happens to look just like one of the guys or who's the heir of a sort of big business sort of magnate or sort of conglomerate, and he really doesn't want to take over the family business, so he sort of runs away, and this girl decides to be his stand-in for the time being. Also, there is some monetary incentive for her to do so, and so she does that, and through this sort of weird sort of situation that she finds herself in. She meets a whole bunch of people, and some very interesting things happen. Pretty standard shoujo fare. I don't think it breaks the mold all that much, but if you're looking for a shoujo, or the premise interests you, then I might look into checking this out, especially with it being only 4 volumes long, so it really isn't that big of an investment. But I did enjoy the series, though it didn't blow my mind or make me rethink my life or anything like that, but it was enjoyable, and I'm happy to have read it. And next up, I have Volume 5, or Omnibus Volume 5 of Sekirei. And this is just more of this is a battle action harem-y type series with a little bit of sort of seinen romance elements involved. It is pretty apparent that the harem isn't going to be sort of an end condition. It's pretty explicit in saying what is going to happen in the romance department, I feel, from the very beginning. But Sekirei is definitely a series that it actually has a decent narrative and well-developed characters that do progress throughout the story. I have seen both of the anime for the series. I'm not sure how many volumes of the manga that covers, but yeah, I do have a good understanding of sort of what this series is about, so I really don't have much of a problem getting sort of the remainder of the series that I have not already experienced. But if you are looking for more of a battle harem-y series, or you don't really mind fan service, or the characters having sort of the figures that they do, then Sekirei is definitely a series I would look into. And the romance department isn't really lacking either, though some of the antics are a little bit annoying. It's not the best series I have ever read, but I do enjoy this series nonetheless. Next up, I have the 10th omnibus for Ubelblatt. I'm not sure how many more volumes this series is going to be. I think we are caught up with Japan with this volume release. I really enjoyed the first volumes of Ubelblatt, but with more recent volumes, I haven't really liked the direction that the author decided to take with the series. It's not bad, it's just not up to par with, I feel, the beginning of the story was like, so that is a little disappointing. Though, if this decides to be the final arc, or what it's currently in decides to be very close to the final arc, that might be a little disappointing for me, but it really depends on where the author decides to go, inevitably. And if this so happens to not be anywhere close to the final arc, that is okay with me, because I really hope the series can get back to the caliber of a series that I feel it was in the very beginning. Yeah, Ubelblatt, kind of Berserk light, but not really. You can definitely tell sort of similarities between the main character and Guts, but just because you like one does not mean you will like the other, because they are slightly different in their tones and their atmospheres, and they're not really trying to do the same thing, though some aspects are similar, so that is kind of why it is compared. Even saying it's Berserk light is a little bit comparing it too much to Berserk, but you can definitely tell that it's inspired, or at least I think that you can tell that. But yeah, Ubelblatt Omnibus Volume 10. And next up, I have Omnibus Volume 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of Love Hina. Now, I have read this entire first omnibus, as well as 2 of the volumes contained within this one, because 1 through 4 are 3-in-1s, and Volume 5 is a 2-in-1, and this is a very different, well, not necessarily different, it's a rom-com, harem, comedy, shonen thing, so there are certain things that you're going to find very similar with a lot of the other series that are just like this one. However, the interesting thing about this one is sort of the age of our characters, or at least a good chunk of our characters, because the main character in this one is 19 at the very beginning and very quickly turns 20. So our main male character is already out of high school and he's applying to college. So that's not typical for a shonen series, or at least none that I have really read or seen or heard talked about. And the main female character was 17 and has recently turned 18, so she's also quite old for a shonen sort of female protagonist. So I do find that quite interesting, and I do feel it gives enough of a difference to the formula because we're not talking about high school in this one, to where I feel it's a breath of fresh air, and if you're looking for a harem comedy or just more of a rom-com, then this might be a series to check out. However, that is not all that I have for this series, because I have all of the series in singles as well. Now, you might be asking, why have I decided to buy the series twice? And the reason to that is because I initially bought the omnibus volumes, and then I found a very good deal for the entire set of the singles, and I usually tend to prefer the singles. The omnibus volumes are quite large and can sometimes be hard to sort of flip through the pages, especially for volumes 1 and volume 3. So I decided to pick up the singles, and I'm also interested in seeing how the Tokyo Pop translation compares to the Kodansha Comics translation of the series, because from my understanding, Tokyo Pop is definitely a lot more loose with the translation than Love Hina, or not Love Hina, it's all Love Hina, but from Kodansha Comics. So I'm interested to see what sort of the differences are between these two, and I generally just tend to prefer single volumes, and these ones were not all that bad. Some of them are worse off than others. Like, I think volumes 1 and 3 were in not so great condition, but for a majority of the volumes they're not quite in new condition, or a condition that I would expect to receive from sort of a major retailer. But they are in good enough condition, especially considering they're secondhand, for me to not really care a whole lot about getting replacement volumes. But yeah, I'm interested to see the differences in the translation and how sort of the two compare. And yeah, if you have read Love Hina, it is quite a popular series. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. And also, I'm so happy that I got all the spines matching, because that sometimes happens with Tokyo Pop series, is not all the spines are matching, and I am a little bit anal when it comes to that on my shelves. It can get pretty irritating for me, even though for most people it's probably not that big of a deal. And next up, I have sort of an interesting release, and one that I was tempted to buy before, but never really pulled the trigger, but then I saw a little bit of talk going on about the series in the Manga Collectors Discord channel. Link to that is in the description down below. There's some interesting conversations to be had. Everyone there is a collector, at least I assume so, or are at least interested in it, so might want to check that out. But that is Super Dimensional Love Gun by Shintaro Kago, a very, very famous Eroguro artist, or erotic and grotesque is what that stands for, I do believe. And I can definitely say that it is quite grotesque. I'm not going to be showing any of the panels, because there are some things showing that might not be the greatest things to show, but interestingly enough, this is published by Faku Books, which is interesting considering the series isn't really a hentai, though I can definitely see why they might publish it. There is a lot of nudity going on in this series, but yeah, this is quite a nice release. It is paperback, and they are asking $20 for it, so it better be a really good release. But it does come with a dust jacket, not just any regular dust jacket. This is like cardstock quality paper or better, so you know that's very nice. But if you open it up, this is actually shiny, and you can definitely see it on there. It's definitely reflecting my flash a lot, but yeah, this is a very, very nice dust cover, very, very nice release. A work that is very reminiscent of something such as Lychee Light Club, or anything around that. Velveteen and Mandala rings a bell, so if you're interested in stuff like that, this might be a book to pick up, though it is quite expensive, but definitely worth a read if you're into sort of that kind of art style, not really art style, but how do I say this? Aesthetic, maybe. The Eroguro aesthetic, this might be one to look into. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting read, and quite a nice publication, might I add. Next up, I have another incredibly high-quality release, and that is the Cutie Honey Classic Collection by 7 Seas. And before I even get into anything about it, I love 7 Seas Classic Collections. I will pick up just about anything they release in this awesome format. And whoever was in charge of designing this book in particular, they should get like 7 promotions. The color design on this cover is amazing. I love the cotton candy colors. And just everything looks excellent on this book. And even sort of the title on the spine has a little bit of texturing to it. Almost feels not really sticky, but it's definitely textured. And this volume is just excellent quality. It's like between 450 and 500 pages, and it's only $28 US. So excellent quality book. And when you compare that to the price, it's just incredible how they're able to put these things out as they are. But if you're a fan of Go Nagai, you're gonna love the original Cutie Honey. It was definitely an interesting read, and I really wanted to see where sort of a lot of inspiration for some modern day sort of manga came from. So definitely an interesting read, at least for that factor. And if you are at all interested in Go Nagai works, Cutie Honey, the Classic Collection, is definitely one I would recommend picking up. Next up, to continue this trend of awesome releases, I have Omnibus Volumes 1 and Omnibus Volume 2 of Otherworld Barbara by Fantagraphics Books. Now, I have read the first Omnibus, have not read the second one, so I can't say for certain what I feel the quality of this series is, but it's definitely an interesting work. Not necessarily my kind of series, but I can definitely see why Moto Hagio is an artist or a creator that a lot of people really like. And Fantagraphics has done an excellent job with these releases. Very big as well. Can't even fit completely in frame. Very close, but not quite. Yeah, very well-made books. I don't really know how to recommend this series. I think I'm going to have to complete it in order to get sort of a good grasp of the kind of series it is and the kind of person I think is going to like this series. But as for the quality of the books, very good. Fantagraphics is always very good with their release quality. And yeah, now I just have to find A Drunken Dream and other stories out there in the wild, hopefully not for a ridiculous price, though that might be a quite the feat to accomplish. But yeah, Omnibus Volumes 1 and 2 of Otherworld Barbara, that is the complete series. The original was 4 volumes, so each of these is a 2-in-1. But yeah, I'm interested to see how the series concludes. And last up, if you thought the Otherworld Barbara releases were very good, I think I have found the best release, at least in my collection, in my opinion. It is very close, but these books are very nice. And those are the full-color editions, or the full-color omnibus editions for High School of the Dead. Now, this covers the entire series in these 2 omnibus volumes, and they're full color, so there's also that as well. These things are incredibly heavy. These books have dust jackets on them. The other side of the dust jacket is basically a poster, the likes of which I cannot show because of the content of said poster. And they also are, if you take the dust jacket off, it also reveals artwork on the cover that's basically just this image without any of the handprints on it. And you can tell these are high quality volumes because they are quite heavy books. It's unfortunate that High School of the Dead will never be complete, but these books are very nice, and I love High School of the Dead. I think it is a very good series. A lot of people consider it a guilty pleasure, which I can't quite understand because it is legitimately very good and one of the better zombie stories out there. So that confuses me a little bit, but a little bit more information about the volumes. They're hardcover, they're big, they're heavy, they're high quality. This one is 4 volumes long, so it's 4 volumes of the original, and they're both $60. This one has 4 volumes. This one only has 3 volumes, however, because they decided that that wasn't good enough, they decided to throw in an art book at the end of this volume, just because why not? Let's make these things even better. So, Volume 1 contains 4 volumes of the original series, and this second one contains the last 3 of the original series, including an art book. So, just absolutely fantastic releases. I don't think I have found releases that are better than these. If you think there's a better English release of a manga, let me know, but as far as I'm concerned, these are outstanding in quality, especially when you consider the fact that these things are full color. Like, these are 2 gigantic tomes with high effort put into just the building of these books, and for an excellent series that I feel definitely deserves that treatment. But yeah, High School of the Dead, both omnibuses. Unfortunately, the series will not be complete, but it is still excellent nonetheless. But that will do it for this haul for August 2018, and a little bit of September thrown in there. But yeah, what did you guys think of the series that I unhauled, or not necessarily unhauled, but I hauled this this video? I was gonna say month, but it's been a little bit more than a month, so we'll say this haul video. Have you decided to check out any of the series that I have mentioned in this haul? And have you enjoyed any of these series? What are your thoughts on them? Leave those down in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and share. And any other questions, comments, concerns, really about anything, any recommendations you might have, you can leave those in the description down below. And if you would like to keep up to date with all of my content, you can follow me on Twitter with a link in the description down below, or subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on. But anyway, I am Laethas. Thank you guys so much for watching this manga haul for August 2018. I am Laethas. Goodbye.